The black lips pull upward, tearing at the corners, revealing every tooth, even molars deep inside a throat with no tongue, just a black, cavernous hole. My bladder lets go. The head, still facing away, rotates almost 180 degrees. He smiles. But to understand how we got here, how Barnaby, my beloved dog, became this grotesque thing, we need to go back to a quiet house in the mountains, just 3 days earlier. The impossible twist of his head, the silent, predatory grin, sends a raw jolt of pure terror through me. My mind screams in rejection, refusing to accept that my loyal, loving companion could be replaced by this cold, unblinking horror. The guest room, usually a place of quiet solitude, now feels like a suffocating trap. Its air is thick with an unnatural stillness, heavy with the sickly sweet scent of rot, a smell I now recognize from his fur. Moonlight, sharp and unforgiving, slices through the window, casting long, distorted shadows that seem to writhe with the creature's impossible smile. Every fiber of my being urges immediate flight, but my limbs are paralyzed, heavy and unresponsive, my voice caught in a silent, choked gasp. My heart hammers against my ribs, a frantic, deafening drumbeat against the profound silence of the room. This thing, this abomination, wears Barnaby's skin, but it is not him. It is something else entirely, something ancient and malevolent, now lurking within the familiar walls of my home. The horror is absolute. What dark entity has returned from the forest, cloaked in the form of my dog, and what sinister purpose drives its silent, chilling gaze from the shadows of my own house? Just 3 days ago, this house was my sanctuary, a tranquil escape nestled deep in the mountainous region near Petropolis. Surrounded by dense, emerald forest, it offered a perfect refuge from the city's frantic pulse, a place where the only sounds were the whisper of wind through pines and the distant calls of jungle birds. My only constant companion here was Barnaby, a 4-year-old golden retriever, 40 kilos of pure, unadulterated love, with fluffy golden fur that shimmered like spun gold. He was the kind of dog that shied away from his own farts, who greeted me at the door with a slipper clutched gently in his mouth, his entire body wiggling with ecstatic joy. His warm, brown eyes were always full of affection, reflecting an innocence I cherished, a bond built on trust and simple, unconditional love. He was my shadow, my confidant, and the very definition of comfort. We shared a quiet, peaceful existence, the rhythm of our days dictated by the natural world. This isolated haven felt impervious to the chaos of the outside world, a perfect bubble of peace. But that serene world shattered the moment the storm arrived, bringing with it an unseen terror from the ancient woods, a presence that would forever redefine our understanding of companionship. The Tuesday night sky unleashed a deluge, one of those summer storms that rips away power and transforms dirt roads into treacherous mud pits. I stood on the porch, the rhythmic drumming of rain on the corrugated roof a hypnotic backdrop, a cigarette burning slowly between my fingers. Barnaby lay at my feet, a warm, golden presence against the chill of the evening. Suddenly, his head snapped up. His ears went rigid, rotating slightly, straining to catch a sound I couldn't hear. The fur on his neck bristled, rising like tiny needles. He was staring, unblinking, at the tree line where the dense forest began. It was pitch black out there, an impenetrable wall of darkness, yet he saw something. A low growl rumbled deep in his chest. This was not his playful tug-of-war growl. This was a guttural, vibrating sound, heavy with a primal, unshakable fear. The air grew heavy, charged with unseen electricity. My own skin prickled. What unseen horror lurked in the absolute blackness of the forest, capable of striking such profound terror into the heart of my brave, loyal dog? Then he did something utterly unthinkable, something that tore a hole in the fabric of our familiar routine. Barnaby bolted. He cleared the low porch railing in a single powerful leap and vanished into the churning darkness of the forest, barking furiously. "Barnaby, no, get back here!" My screams tore through the night, but the thunder, A deafening crack that shook the very foundations of the house, swallowed my voice whole. He was gone, swallowed by the storm and the ancient trees. Panic seized me. I spent an hour calling his name, my voice raw, my throat burning. I grabbed a flashlight and raincoat, stepping hesitantly into the mud-soaked woods, the beam cutting weak, trembling arcs through the driving rain. Nothing. The deluge washed away any scent, any track, leaving only a chilling emptiness. Soaked, shivering, and consumed by a cold dread, I returned inside. Domestic dogs do not last long in the wild. Snakes, cougars, illegal poachers, traps 1,000 dangers lurk. I left the back door unlocked, placed a fresh bowl of food, and sat in the living room, waiting, listening to the relentless rain, every drop echoing my growing fear. Would he ever return? Or was this the last I would ever see of my beloved companion? Sleep finally claimed me on the couch, a fitful, anxious slumber. I woke suddenly at 3:00 a.m., jolted upright by a distinct sound, claws on the wooden floorboards. My heart leaped into my throat. The back door, which I had left ajar, now stood wide open, a gaping more into the stormy night. "Barnaby!" My voice was a shaky whisper. He was in the kitchen, standing over his water bowl. Relief washed over me, a wave of warmth dispelling the icy grip of fear. But as I watched, the relief curdled into an unsettling unease. He was drinking, but not in his usual way. Not the noisy lapping, the enthusiastic splashes. Instead, his snout was submerged in the water, motionless, as if he were absorbing the liquid by osmosis, a silent, unnerving process. No sound, no movement, just a rigid stillness. The sight sent a shiver down my spine, a discordant note in the symphony of relief. What was this strange, silent ritual? And why did it feel so wrong? I tried to dismiss the strangeness. "You idiot," I murmured, walking towards him, a forced lightness in my tone. "You scared me. Where did you go?" He lifted his head. He was drenched, plastered with mud, a stark contrast to his usual fluffy cleanliness. But it wasn't just the mud. There was a smell on his fur, not the familiar scent of wet dog. This was the sickening odor of overturned earth, damp decay, and something else, something cloyingly sweet and putrid, like a forgotten carcass. "Gross, Barnaby. Did you roll in something dead?" He didn't wag his tail. He didn't pant. He just looked at me. Golden retrievers have warm, expressive brown eyes, but Barnaby's eyes were different, opaque. A milky film covered them, dulling their usual sparkle, and he didn't blink. He stared for 10 long seconds, absolutely motionless, a statue carved from mud and dread. Then he turned his body, not in a fluid canine motion, but a rigid, segmented movement. First the front, then the torso, then the back, like a tank maneuvering. What dark encounter in the forest had robbed him of his warmth, his light, and his very essence? He must be traumatized, I rationalized, trying to quell the rising tide of unease. He saw some animal in the woods and got spooked. I pointed to his bed. "Come on, boy, bath tomorrow, bed now." He didn't move. "Bed," I ordered more firmly, a tremor in my voice. He lumbered to his bed, his movements stiff and mechanical. But he didn't curl up, didn't settle into his familiar cozy ball. He lay on his stomach, all 4 forms stretched out rigidly, head held high, staring fixedly at the wall. The next day, things only worsened. The putrid smell, that sickly sweet decay, clung to him. I bathed him with flea shampoo, scrubbing until my arms ached, but the stench seemed to emanate from beneath his skin, an internal rot. And his skin itself, as I lathered him, I felt it was loose, too loose. Dogs have loose skin on their necks, I know, but this was different. It felt like his skin was a suit one size too big, sliding too easily over his muscles, as if barely connected. And he was cold. Dogs are warm to the touch. Barnaby was freezing, like a slab of steak taken from the fridge. What dark, internal corruption had transformed my warm, living companion into this cold, rigid shell? "Must be sick," I murmured, a knot tightening in my stomach. "Hypothermia, maybe." I tried to offer him a treat, a liver biscuit he adored. I placed it in front of his nose. He sniffed it, or rather, pretended to sniff it, a perfunctory movement. Then his mouth opened, unnaturally wide, and the biscuit simply fell inside. He didn't chew. He swallowed it whole with a convulsive movement of his throat, like a snake swallowing an egg. A violent shiver racked my entire body. I spent the day trying to work in my home office, but I couldn't focus. Barnaby stayed in the hallway. He didn't sleep. Every time I glanced out, he was there, sitting strangely, too upright. His spine perfectly straight, his front form stiffly extended. He looked like an Egyptian statue, not a normal dog, and he was watching me. Whenever I turned my head quickly, his opaque eyes were fixed on me. But as soon as our eyes met, he would snap his gaze away, to the floor, as if dissembling. What sinister intelligence lurked behind those milky, unblinking eyes, silently observing my every move? At night, desperation gnawed at me, forcing me to call my ex-girlfriend Clara, a veterinarian. "Clara, Barnaby is acting weird. He's cold, his skin is loose, he's not eating right. And he's looking at me funny," I said, my voice tight with worry. "Did he vomit, have diarrhea?" she asked, her tone professional. "No, he just doesn't act like he used to. He seems like a robot." Clara paused, then offered, "It must be PTSD if he ran into the woods, or he might have eaten a poisonous toad. Bring him here tomorrow morning." "Okay, I'll bring him," I agreed, a flicker of hope igniting. "Oh, and David," she hesitated, her voice dropping. "Lock him in the guest room tonight. In case he has rabies or some neurological condition, he might get aggressive." "Barnaby, aggressive? He's afraid of butterflies, Clara. Just for safety." I hung up, a fresh wave of dread washing over me. I looked at the hallway. Barnaby wasn't there anymore. Boy, silence. I checked the living room. Nothing. The kitchen, empty. Then I heard it. A noise coming from the guest room. The sound of little paws on the floor, but the rhythm was wrong. It didn't sound like 4 paws. It sounded like 2, like human footsteps. What terrifying transformation was unfolding behind that closed door? I walked to the guest room door, which stood ajar, a sliver of darkness beckoning. My heart hammered. I pushed it open slowly, the hinges groaning softly. The room was dark, lit only by the cold, unforgiving moonlight streaming through the window. Barnaby was there. He was standing, not resting on his hind forms to look out the window, not jumping. He was standing. His posture was grotesquely upright. His rear forms were straight, the knees locked backward in an impossible angle. His torso was rigid. His front forms hung by his sides, limp, swaying slightly. He faced away from me, staring into the wardrobe mirror, watching himself. He tilted his head to the left, then to the right. Then he tried to lift one of his front forms. The toes of his paw moved, not like fused dog paws. The digits separated, stretched, making a grasping motion in the air. A sound escaped him, a raspy whisper coming from his throat. "Tua." My bladder let go. Warm urine soaked my leg. I didn't scream. The terror was so absolute it stole my voice. I took a step back. The floorboard creaked. What unholy mimicry was this creature practicing, and what new horrors would its evolving form unleash? Barnaby's head turned. Not his body, just his head. It rotated almost 180 degrees like an owl to look at me over his shoulder. The neck twisted the loose skin like a wet rag. He smiled. The black lips pulled upward, tearing slightly at the corners, revealing all his teeth, including the molars way in the back. The mouth opened too wide. There was no tongue, just a black hole in his throat. I slammed the door shut, the sound echoing like a gunshot. I ran to my room and locked the door, fumbling with the deadbolt. I pushed the heavy dresser in front of it, scraping wood against wood. I grabbed my phone. No signal. Yesterday's storm must have knocked out the tower's power again. I sat on the bed, clutching a baseball bat, shaking violently, the terror a cold hand squeezing my heart. I heard footsteps in the hallway, heavy footsteps, bipedal. They stopped in front of my bedroom door. I heard the sound of his breathing through the wood. A wet, bubbling sound, sickeningly close. Then the doorknob turned, slowly. The metal knob creaked. It turned left, then right. He was trying to open it with his paws. What grotesque intelligence now guided Barnaby's movements, and what would happen when the door finally gave way? "Go away," I screamed, my voice raw. "Get out of my house." The movement of the doorknob stopped. Silence. Then a voice. It wasn't my voice. It wasn't a movie monster voice. It was a collage of sounds. "Sit, stay, good boy, walk." He was repeating the words I said to him, but the intonation was wrong. The syllables were cut and pasted like a defective recorder, a chilling mockery. "David, biscuit, David, open." Tears streamed down my face. "You're not Barnaby. What did you do to him?" Silence again. Then I heard a sound that broke my heart, the sound of Barnaby whining, that high-pitched little cry he made when he wanted into the room. "Who you am? Woo off, woo off." It sounded so real. For a second I thought, am I crazy? Is he hurt out there and I locked him out? But then the whine changed. It dropped in pitch. It became deep. It turned into a laugh. A dry, human laugh coming from a dog's throat. He started throwing himself against the door. The door shook violently. The dresser slid a few inches. That animal weighed 40 kilos, but the force felt like 100. The wood of the door began to crack. I looked at the window. Second floor. If I jumped, I'd break my legs. But if I stayed, what unholy game was this creature playing, tormenting me with the ghost of my dog before breaking through my last defense? Suddenly, the sound stopped. The footsteps moved away, receding down the stairs. I went to the window and peeked, hiding behind the curtain, my body trembling. The front door of the house opened, a black rectangle against the pre-dawn gloom. The thing that used to be my dog walked out. It walked on two forms, but grotesquely. The rear knees, which on dogs bend backward, were forced to bend forward, hopping with every step, a sickening symphony of displaced bone. The golden torso shone under the moonlight, slick and unnerving. It walked to the middle of the lawn and stopped. It looked up directly at my window, knowing I was watching. It raised its right front paw-like form and waved, a rigid human wave, a final chilling mockery. Then it ran into the forest, but it didn't run like a dog. It ran like a naked, deformed man, flailing its non-distinct forms, disappearing into the darkness. I stayed awake until dawn. When the sun came up, I grabbed my car keys, the baseball bat, and went downstairs. The house smelled like rot, stronger now, a pervasive stench. There were mud marks and a viscous slime on my bedroom doorknob, the stair railing, the fridge. The fridge was open. All the raw meat was gone. The styrofoam trays were torn on the floor. He ate everything, including the plastic. What new horror would this evolving mimicry bring, now that it had tasted human food and learned human gestures? I ran to the car. As I drove down the dirt road, desperate to escape, I saw something on the edge of the woods. I stopped the car. It was a collar, Barnaby's red collar lying on the ground near a bush, and next to the collar, the rest. I won't describe it, but what I found there wasn't a whole dog. It was the inside part, as if someone had taken off a dog suit and left the inside behind. The skin was gone. The head was gone. Only the muscles, organs, and bones remained, surgically clean. I vomited right there. I got in the car and drove to the city. I went straight to the police, telling an edited version of the story. Someone broke into my house, killed my dog, threatened me. I didn't mention the dog walking on two forms. They would have institutionalized me. The police filed a report. They found Barnaby's remains in the woods. Probably a jaguar, the sergeant said. Or some psychopath. We'll investigate. I never went back to that house. I'm living in an apartment in downtown Rio on the 15th floor. I sold the house for half its value. I thought I was safe here. But last night I was in the elevator, going up alone. The elevator stopped on the 4th floor. The door opened. There was no one there. The hallway was empty. I was about to press the button to close the door when I heard it, coming from the end of the dark corridor. That sound of two paws on the floor. I looked closely. Deep in the shadows, there was a silhouette. It wasn't a dog. It looked like a man. A tall, thin man wearing a long trench coat. But the way he was standing, the head tilted at an impossible angle. Forms too long, reaching past his knees. He was facing away. The hallway light flickered. The figure turned around. I didn't see the face. He was wearing a hood or a hat, but I saw the feet. He wasn't wearing shoes. The feet were hairy, and they had black claws that clicked against the ceramic tiles. And as the elevator door started to close, I heard the voice. Not a bark, but my own voice whispered, echoing through the empty hall, "Good boy." The door closed. I am locked in my apartment now. I push the fridge against the door. I hear them out there. It's not just one. It seems he taught others. They are scratching at the door, not at the bottom where a dog would scratch. They are scratching at the height of the peephole. They want to come in, and I don't think they just want to bite me. I think Barnaby learned to walk on two forms because dog's skin was too limiting. He wants something with thumbs. He wants something that can open doors. He wants my skin. If you have a dog and he runs into the woods at night, do not go after him. And if he comes back different, if he looks at you for too long, if he seems to understand what you say a little too well, lock the door and pray. Pray he hasn't learned how to turn the knob.